On behalf of the Boone County Republican Women's Club, I'd like to welcome you to our first Boone County Candidate Republican Forum. I'm Valerie Swack, and I'm the president of the club. And first, I'd like to just say a brief word about our club. The purpose of the Boone County Republican Women's Club is to engage women, and we do accept men as members as well. We want to engage them in the political process, and we want to support Republican ideas and causes. We meet the third Wednesday of each month from 7 to 8 at the Golf Club of Indiana in the Cardinal Room, so it's very central to everybody in Boone County. And we are affiliated with the Indiana Federation of Republican Women and the National Federation of Republican Women. Our club does not endorse any candidates pre-primary. Our hope for tonight is, this is off the script here, but this is sort of like a dating service, I think of it as. We want you to find candidates that you love and that you want to help, because all of these candidates have put themselves out there, and a lot of times they do everything on their own. So our hope is tonight that you find candidates that really are engaging and that you want to help. I'd like to say a brief thank you to the officers and the organizers of our event. It took a lot of effort. We have Debbie Ottinger, Jennifer Lasley, Nikki Baldwin, Kate Swanson, Sue Gentry, Val Stroll, and a lot of our other volunteers. Could you just briefly stand up and give a wave if you helped? Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. And we would also like to thank our sponsors, Tell the Story Photography, Teresa, and Occasions Divine at the Cardinal Room. So now, this portion of the program, I'd like everyone to stand, and we will say a prayer and stay standing, and we will say the pledge. Gracious and almighty God, we come to you with thankful hearts. Thank you for our freedoms and the foresight our founding fathers had to build a country on Judeo-Christian values. Thank you, Lord, for each one of these candidates here tonight who desire to help our county. Thank you for their willingness to stand up and be counted. We also ask for wisdom for our current elected leaders, that they may govern with integrity and insight. Bless our time together this evening, and may God bless America. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, on to the fun part. Now, our moderator tonight, he really doesn't need an introduction, because for 23 years, he has been all of our best friend on TV. You know him as the lead anchor on WTHR. You all know about his incredibly distinguished career on television. He has received numerous regional Emmy Awards. He even got the Sagamore or the Wabash, which is really darn impressive. But what you don't know is what will really impress you. When I called John, he's been retired now for a few years, when I called to ask if he would help with this forum, he absolutely jumped at the chance. He's a resident here in Boone County, and he was thrilled because he expressed to me how much he wants to help his community and get involved. So much so, he's now the president of the Zionsville Parks Board, and that is no small effort. So it's an honor and a privilege to have John Stehr here as our moderator this evening.
Well, thank you, Val. I appreciate that. And one thing Val didn't mention, when I did retire a couple years ago, I got a fancy title which I hold on to today. I am the anchor emeritus of Channel 13, which mostly means I get to go to things like funerals and candidate forums. So I'm really glad that no one has died. I'm glad to be here tonight with all of you. And as Val said, it is great to be part of our community. Here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to have Republican candidates on stage for the following races: State Representative in District 25, State Representative in District 41, Boone County Commissioner, and Boone County Sheriff. They're all going to get a 1-minute opening statement. Then we're going to work through a list of questions. We're going to get a 1-minute response from each one of them. I may follow up from time to time. But in the interest of time, we're going to ask you to not applaud, to not cheer, to not catcall, or otherwise react in a way that'll take away from the packed agenda that we have tonight. Now, as for what is not on the agenda, there are a number of candidates that are involved in primary races that are along the outside here. We're not going to have a chance to get everybody on the stage tonight, so we've tried to limit it to candidates with smaller constituencies in Boone County offices to have their own tables. We have a few candidates from state races here, so we would invite you to meet with them as the night goes on, a little bit later tonight. So, we're going to begin tonight with the District 25 candidates. They include Kent Abernathy, Becky Cash, Douglas Rapp, and Matt Whetstone. I'll ask you to come to the stage right now, please. And let me tell you a little bit as they're coming up about District 25. Prior to redistricting, this district had a southern boundary around Frankfort. It went north, past Lafayette, all the way to Jasper County. Now it encompasses part of Zionsville, a little bit of Lebanon, and it curls around in Hendricks County toward Brownsburg. So geographically, it's much smaller now than it used to be. So now that we have the candidates on the stage, we're going to begin with 1-minute opening statements, and we're going to start with Kent Abernathy of Zionsville. Yes, right up to the mic, please. 1 minute.
This will be quick. Kent Abernathy, native Hoosier, veteran, businessman, public servant. Following high school, attended West Point, 7 years military, then business career at banker, vice president, 2 banks here in Indianapolis, and later started my own business consulting firm. 2003, I volunteered to go back on active duty, 2 tours in the Pentagon, tour in Iraq. In Baghdad, I met a guy named Mitch Daniels, told him I'd always been interested in public service. So when I returned, I was part of the Daniels administration and then later the Pence administration. First as the chief of staff of Department of Environmental Management and later as BMV commissioner. So also served my local community on the Economic Development Commission and the Municipal Building Corp. So running for state representative because I think we need leaders of character at the State House who are willing to make the tough decisions to get solutions for all Hoosiers. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Kent. Next up, let's do Douglas Rapp.
Little known fact, but Kent and I actually served together, so we're used to competing, so it's a good thing. So I'm Douglas Rapp. I'm not a politician. I've never run for office. I've never been appointed. I've never lobbied. I don't owe anybody any favors. So it's not a big mystery how our government works. Anybody can learn it. Each one of you is qualified to stand up and serve your neighbors. If you can understand bureaucracy, then you can do the job downtown. Like Kent, what really matters is people of character, people who don't treat the American public like they can only understand things in 10-second sound bites, like the American public can understand complex situations about very real issues. I was career military, left there, went to the state of Indiana, was hired by the state of Indiana to be a national security and cybersecurity advisor.
And that's 1 minute. Thank you, Doug.
And I'm out.
All right, let's go. Becky Cash, 1 minute, please.
Hi there, my name is Becky Cash and I am running for District 25 State Representative. So John already shared what area that encompasses. I am a wife, I am a mother, I'm a naturopathic practitioner. I have 6 children ranging in age from 9 years old to 22 years old. 4 of my kids have special and medical needs. I also have never been in elected government service. However, I have been serving the community and through my family, because of my family and because of what I have had to learn because of my family for a very, very long time. I am incredibly passionate about the people of Indiana and District 25 and the surrounding areas. The people of Indiana do not believe that their legislators are listening to them. And if they are listening, they do not believe that they are fighting for them. They honestly see it as a ping pong ball that is going back and forth in the State House right now. And I think it's time to change that because we have some good leaders in the State House, but if there are not enough in there that are willing to fight, that are willing to make a difference.
Becky,
then-
that 1 minute goes
Yep.
pretty fast, doesn't it? All right.
Yep.
Matt Whetstone, 1 minute, please.
Hi, I'm Matt Whetstone from Brownsburg, Indiana. I have been elected before. I've been a member of the Brownsburg Town Council. I've been a member of the Indiana General Assembly, and I've been a Hendricks County Commissioner most recently for 8 years. My passion comes with fixing problems for people and getting results. And, you know, as a county commissioner and sharing with county commissioners, fellow county commissioners, it's about infrastructure, it's about public safety, it's about water, it's about the quality of water that we're going to have going forward. It's about understanding how you protect what we're trying to get done locally at the state level as well, because a lot of those policies come down, and some of them are hard to work with, some aren't. But I'm a graduate of Ball State University. I got a political science major, so I don't know. I guess I'm a political scientist, but I don't teach. So I guess the only other title would be a politician. But my wife is here. She's my campaign manager, Deanna, and she's been the love of my life 28 years. And so she encouraged me, and we talked about it a long time, and we thought, you know, the best use of my time and the rest of my life is trying to help people fix problems and getting results and protecting those liberties that we have. And I think my experience counts when you try to do all those things in an environment like the legislature. So
1 minute on the dot.
Perfect.
Thank you, Matt. All right, I'm going to ask Kent to step up to the microphone, and we're going to get into the questions now. We'll give you 1 minute to respond. And the first question is on priorities. If elected, what are the 3 issues that you are most committed to addressing legislatively?
Jobs and the economy, government efficiency, Hoosier values. Jobs and the economy, that's where it kind of all emanates from. To do that, we got to reduce regulations. We got to cut taxes. Look for ways to cut taxes in a reasonable fashion. That includes the individual capital gains tax, the equipment tax that didn't get through. I think is important for businesses. Government efficiency, obviously, working for Governor Daniels, you learn all about government efficiency. When I was there, we returned money to the state budget every year. And it's doing the other things. It's making the tough decisions. The federal monies that are coming in, making sure we have balanced budgets, honestly balanced budgets without raising taxes and keeping a rainy day reserve fund, and using technology. And finally, on Hoosier values, Second Amendment, I'm pro-life, those kind of things, individual liberties. I wore a uniform for 30 years. I will never apologize for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Okay. Doug, you want to step to the microphone? I'll ask the question again. If elected, what 3 issues are you most committed to addressing legislatively?
Yeah, so I think that we need, the government needs to return to what it was intended to do, and that is we should stop injecting social experimentation into our laws and support functions like providing protection of our citizenry and providing opportunities for business. So the second thing is I think that we need to enable our teachers, our schools, and our parents so that we can give our children competitive foundations and facts. Despite our flaws, what makes this country great is that we have the ability to continuously reflect and improve upon our history. And we should be proud of that fact, and I don't think we should teach our children to be ashamed or feel guilty about our history. And the third thing is ensuring fiscal responsibility. We should always strive to do better, but government should only tax people for the things that they absolutely need. They need to stay out of the pockets of the citizenry and return anything that they don't use.
All right,
Times are difficult
that's
for
1
a lot
minute.
of folks.
Thank you, Doug.
Yep, thank you.
Becky? Again, I'll repeat the question. If elected, what are the 3 issues you are most committed to addressing legislatively?
Yes, absolutely. Medical freedom, 100%, needs to be addressed in our state. We've spent the last 2 years watching medical freedom not be addressed in the state of Indiana, which is actually the reason why I jumped into the fray and decided to run for office. So we've had legislation for the last 2 years to protect Hoosiers' jobs and protect Hoosiers from being forced to get vaccinations that they do not want without losing jobs. Unfortunately, it got killed in 2020, and in 2021, the House tried to fix it and the Senate butchered it. So that needs to be dealt with. Protecting life at conception, I am 100% pro-life. I will not apologize for it. We have been dealing with this since the 70s, since right after I was born. Too many babies are dying, and the numbers are going up in Indiana, not down. Whitestown. We need to deal with that. And then parental voice in education, without a doubt, needs to happen. Our parents are peaceful parents that simply want to know what their kids are learning.
Okay, that's 1 minute. Thank you, Becky. All right, Matt, I'll repeat the question for you. If elected, what 3 issues are you most committed to addressing legislatively?
Thank you. Just because I went to Ball State, you don't have to repeat the question. No, I'm just teasing. 3 things for me. Sorry, John. Tools to make us successful. Attracting business, Kent mentioned. Giving us, we need residents. You know, if you listen to economists, our hourly rate isn't necessarily high enough to bring new residents in, but we're building logistics centers all over the place. We're building manufacturing all over the place. And the complaint we get is that you can't put enough people in those jobs. So the tools that we need to make sure we can get the type of job we need, the hourly wage we need. Infrastructure, I'm going to be big on that. Both interstate, local roads, bridges, water. People don't realize the water contamination that's coming. We're going to have a crisis. I think the water contamination crisis may be bigger than transportation at some point. And then allowing parents and school boards and local governments to help be creative and determine what's best for their community and giving them the opportunity to decide those issues.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Doug, why don't you step up to the mic there? You get the next question first. And this one has to do with education. If elected, what would your position be on allowing education dollars to follow the student to whatever school the parents choose, private, public, charter, homeschool, independent of income?
Yeah, I absolutely support funding following the student. So I personally think that there are values that are owed to, are values that you want to teach your children, and you should have a choice of where you put your children to be in an institution that expresses those values. If you want to have one book on your shelf and it's the Bible, that's fine. Go to that school. If you want to, have, a whole library full of different books, go to that school. So I'm 100% behind the money following the student.
Okay, Becky? I'll repeat the question. If elected, what would your position be on allowing education dollars to follow the student to the school of the parent's choice? 1 minute.
I am 100% in support of school choice. I believe that parents absolutely need to have the choice. There are people who say, well, that's fine, but you're defunding the public school. That is absolutely not true. Dollars in Indiana follow the child. So if the child's not in the public school, they weren't going there whether the parent is paying for the private school or not. However, it is nice for those of us who live in Zionsville who can financially afford to pay for a private school. Maybe we can't afford a $13,000 one, but we could afford a $3,000 or $4,000 one possibly. But then we're leaving people behind in other districts and other areas, both in District 25 as well as throughout the entire state of Indiana. So I absolutely 100% support school choice, and the money needs to follow the kids. Okay,
Matt. The question is, if elected, what would your position be on allowing education dollars to follow students to the school of the parent's choice?
Thank you. My parents sent me to St. Gabriel's Catholic School when I was in grade school in Connersville, Indiana, where I was born and raised. We sent our kids to private school and in and out of public-private. My son, I think, went to 3 different high schools. I'm looking at my wife to try and remember, and ended up at Harris Academy in Brownsburg, which was a super program as well, and is now at Purdue and has made the Dean's List every year, which we weren't sure he was going to get out of high school, but he's done great. But it's a bigger issue than that, because you also have to get to how the formula works and how you count student attendance and when that snapshot is taken and when those kids move. But we all need to make sure we follow that money, and the kids deserve it.
All right, Kent. Question is, if elected, what would your position be on allowing education dollars to follow the student to the school of the parent's choice?
Yes. Oh, so, well, it is that simple, really, right? So parents need to be able to determine what's best for their kids. They need to be given quality choices. We need to streamline where the dollars, not only the state dollars, but the federal dollars come from and where they go. And they need to be put where they make the most sense, in the classroom and with teachers' compensation. By the way, I decided to send my kids to parochial school, and quickly, I was asked to be on the national or the State Federation of Catholic School Families. We had to show up at a school board meeting because the school board decided, because of separation of church and state, they weren't going to provide service to the kids. Now I went, happened to take Monsignor with me, and he was kind of shocked and very pleased when I suggested, well, we'll just enroll our kids in school on the day you give the services. And the school board was kind of shocked by that, and I said, you're getting our tax dollars. You're using those tax dollars for free, and our kids deserve those services. So absolutely yes.
All right, thank you. All right, Becky, you're going to get the next question first. And that question is, the lack of reliable, cost-efficient internet is a problem in rural areas. I think we all learned about that during COVID and e-learning. So what would you do to address that issue?
I'm going to be really honest. I have not researched that issue, and I think that people running for office need to be honest about what they don't know a lot about. My husband works in IT. He did not brief me on that one. I do know it's a problem. I'm very aware of that it's a problem, and it is definitely something that I would want to see if it is a state issue that we need to deal with, or if that can be dealt with at the local issue. But I'm not going to pretend to know what I don't know, so I will research it, though.
All right, thank you. Matt Whetstone. Question is, lack of reliable, cost-efficient internet is a problem in rural areas. What would you suggest to address this issue?
Yeah, and I'm sure you saw today, maybe didn't, it just happened this afternoon, the governor vetoed a bill because of some broadband language that was in it this afternoon. And I think he has tried really hard, and the legislative folks who are in the room have tried really hard to put money to that cause through grant programs for communities and rural development. The federal government is trying it hard as well. There's a fight between providers, telecommunication providers, government, and the funding sources, and how much it costs to run a mile of fiber, let's say down some of your 330 miles of dirt road, gravel road in Boone County. So, it's hard to get it down there. It costs millions of dollars. So they're trying. I think we've got to just be creative, and we've got to find private partners to help us share that obligation. I know the co-ops are trying as well. The rural co-ops are trying right now to bring that to everybody too.
All right. Kent Abernathy. Question is, lack of reliable, cost-efficient internet is a problem in rural areas. How would you address this issue?
Not only rural, but in certain urban areas too. If you don't think it was a problem, look what happened during COVID. We had kids that were behind, just if you don't have responsible parents that are there to teach, but if you don't have access to the internet, how are you going to do internet training? And so it's a huge problem, and we do need to have creative solutions, but there's things like satellites. We need to look at military technology and private sector technology on what they're doing. They're getting internet connections. I mean, hell, I can walk out here and get 5G on my cell phone. So we just got to be smarter, and we've got to be committed to it. If you don't think it's a problem in rural areas, go out and talk to farmers. I have. It's a huge problem for them beyond just the broadband internet of being able their kids to learn. It's being able to do basic functions to put in their crops and everything else. So there's solutions out there. We just need to be creative. We need to be committed.
All right, thank you. Doug, question again. Lack of reliable, cost-effective internet is a problem in rural areas. How would you address this issue?
Yeah, I love this question because not only did I work specifically on this issue down around Westgate in that rural area with partnerships with Crane at getting connectivity to that area and helping stimulate that, but I also am getting a PhD in information security. So part of the problem is that this legislature doesn't have a lot of talent down there that understands technology. We talk about laying miles and miles of cable, and the simple fact is that when Russia shut down the internet for Ukraine, it took one tweet for that to be restored by a guy called Elon Musk. So there's a thing called satellites now. So we should start embracing technology and quit being scared of it. My critique about Indiana, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm not shy about critiquing things, but we need to really start taking a little, technology is not a risk, it's the future.
All right, thank you. All right, Matt, the next question is going to go to you first. And that one has to do with free speech. Okay. What would you do to protect individuals and large and small businesses from activists while maintaining everyone's right to free speech?
Okay. This is probably a local question. I mean, protect small and large businesses from activists, but yet allow free speech. Well, that's the cool thing about what these two fought for. And I'm not going to steal their lines because I know we just all spoke for 10 minutes together yesterday, each of us, and so I don't want to steal that. But what they fought for is for all of us to have our voice. We have lost civility, in my mind, in government in a lot of ways, between parties, between members, and I think we have to find a way to make the relationship between our businesses and our public more civil. And I don't know what the answer is to that right now, John. If I had a magic ball, I would tell you. But there's been a lot of people that have sacrificed a lot, including these two right next to me, to make sure we at least have that opportunity. We got to figure out a way to respect it.
Thank you. Kent? Question is free speech. What would you do to protect individuals and large and small businesses from activists while maintaining everyone's right to free speech?
Yeah, no, look, it's interesting. When I was at the Pentagon, one day we had protesters outside the Pentagon, and I came down and I had a team of individuals down there, and they were kind of upset and kind of grousing about it. And I said, guys, stop. We're doing what we do so they can do what they do. I mean, it's that simple. And so as long there's ways to have reasonable discourse and do it in a very respectful manner, everyone has a right to have their voice heard. They also have a right to do it in a respectful manner, and as long as that's done, it's not a problem. If they exceed the limits, there's ways to deal with that. And so to me, it's pretty simple, but just blatantly shutting people down and not allowing them to voice their opinions and stuff like that is certainly not the answer. If you really believe in free speech, you believe in letting people express opinions that you don't agree with. It's just that simple. And so, and Doug will tell you the same thing. You know, we both wore uniforms for a long time to protect that basic right.
Thank you. All right, Doug, see if you tell us the same thing here. The question is free speech. What would you do to protect individuals and large and small businesses from activists while maintaining everyone's right to free speech?
Yeah, no, I love it. These questions are these are perfect. First of all, there's a difference between free speech and a riot. So let's make that distinction very, very clear up front. Our country was founded on that tension of people disagreeing and coming to solutions. We seem to disagree more than find solutions these days. But there is a difference. We have an obligation, government has an obligation to protect businesses, and anybody who crosses that line is no longer free speech, they're a criminal. So the other thing we need to look at, you may not think this is a local issue, but it is, ask your children, is we need to regulate social media, because a lot of the divisiveness that is being seen today is being scientifically programmed by psychologists at Facebook who have commoditized your attention. So that's it. Thanks.
Do you want to go back and say some more?
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you a few more seconds because of that.
Yeah, I'll take the time. It's a fact. It is a scientific fact. The studies exist out there, and I'll be happy to share them with you, that negative or divisive information, misinformation, travels 7 times faster than the truth. So until we go back to the values of traditional media, what John certainly understands, where people are responsible for the content that they put out to the world, we're going to continue to see this type of stuff. We're going to see riots incited. We're going to see people, crime, murder exacerbated by people who are profiting from buying your attention.
Okay, thank you. Becky, what would you do to protect individuals and large and small businesses from some activists while maintaining everyone's right to free speech?
Right. Well, I think the answer is simple. The Constitution of the United States guarantees our right to free speech. So I had the opportunity to kind of try to think through what the intention behind this question was. I'm sure it was good. I would have loved an example, actually. But there is that line, obviously, between speech and violence. So if we're talking about riots and things that happened in Indianapolis during the riots, there is no protection to riots in the Constitution of the United States. But I will go another direction. I'm a small business owner. My husband and I own 2 businesses. And sometimes it's beneficial to just let people talk. If we're really talking about speech, campaign pages and such, as long as we don't go over that line of either slander, and then that belongs in a court, or violence, then free speech. So I also don't support a lot of the zones at college campuses that prevent free speech. So I definitely think that needs to be dealt with.
That's 1 minute, thank you. All right, the next question Kent is going to get first, and that has to do with medical freedom. What is your view on maintaining medical freedom for citizens regarding vaccines, masks, and other decisions affecting their families?
So I don't think that, is it still on? Yeah. I'll just use my command voice, I guess. So I don't think there's any circumstance where government should be able to impose mandates on folks, those type of mandates. And businesses should be restricted from not allowing medical and if there's legitimate other religious objections, it just shouldn't happen. And I think it's pretty much that simple.
All right. Doug, the question is, what is your view about maintaining medical freedom for citizens regarding things like vaccines, masks, and other decisions?
Yeah, so when I worked in civil military affairs, and part of my job there was actually to help write the pandemic response for the state of Indiana. And what I can tell you is we didn't pull it off the shelf and look at it. So we reinvented the plan. These things are complex issue, but here's the bottom line. The government is always in a tension between protecting the citizenry and protecting the rights of citizens. The bottom line is you're all intelligent human beings, right? We need to quit having these 10-second soundbite conversations about it. You understand risk. If you choose to go unvaccinated, that's the risk that you've decided to take. You evaluate risk every day when you drive your car, when you send your kids to school. That's your right to make that decision. We have an obligation to protect people who can't protect themselves, and the government should do that in the best way that they know. Walking that balance is difficult, but at the end of the day, you're all intelligent human beings. You understand the risk. That's your choice.
All right, thank you, Doug. Becky? Question is, what is your view about maintaining medical freedom for citizens regarding vaccines, masks, and other decisions that affect their families?
Yeah. Indiana has failed to protect the citizens of Indiana. We need non-discriminatory legislation in Indiana immediately. I wish our legislature could go back into session and do this right now. The Constitution of the United States protects individuals. It actually does not protect the rights of a business owner. If somebody can find that for me in the Constitution, please bring that to me. My table's right back there. But the Constitution protects individual freedom. The problem that we have right now is that there is this grappling between, yes, you have the right to make your own choice, but a business has the right to terminate you, or, do you have a legitimate medical reason? Well, Indiana University accepted 6 medical diagnoses as their legitimate, and cancer was not one of them. Like someone who had just gone through cancer treatment was not one of them. That's not okay. And as far as religious exemptions, your religious beliefs are your religious beliefs. We need legislation that says you can take a religious exemption and nobody can ask you or question what that is, and nobody can tell you you have to go get somebody to sign off on that. So
That's
I am
1 minute. Thank you,
100%.
All right, Matt, the question is, what is your view about maintaining medical freedom for citizens regarding vaccines, masks, and other decisions that affect their families?
Yep, and I'm on the same page with everyone else. We've got a lot of, it goes back to even whether you wear your seatbelt or not, where you get a vaccine or not. All those questions are questions that government at some point, now you can't get in your car without buckling your seatbelt because the car manufacturers have made you do it because it's going to beep at you for 45 minutes. And another reason, the vaccine, my wife said I couldn't mention this, but I'm going to. I got the shingles vaccine a month ago, and I've been dealing with pain and numbness in this arm ever since I got the vaccine. And this one, I called the doc. I said, should I get the next vaccine? I'm not opposed to vaccines. He said, should I get the next vaccine? He said, no, if you have that reaction, you shouldn't get it. Everybody's biology is different. Everybody's symptoms are different. So I would be for you to have your choice on all those things.
All right, thank you. All right, Doug, you're going to go first to the next question, and that has to do with secure elections. What is your view about investing in standard voting machines across the state that require paper ballot backups for every voter?
Yeah, being in information security, we have the 3-2-1 policy, and that is that you back up 3 times, twice on your own computer or an external drive and once in the cloud. So my point to that is we always need backups, right? We always need the ability to check ourselves. We can't just trust black box technology. So I'm not only all for standardized voting machines that are state of the art and the best technology out there, but the backups for sure. And I think that we also need to invest in much, much more security so that those machines are protected, they're behind firewalls, they're not able to be manipulated or hacked. So that's it.
All right, Becky? Question is, what is your view about investing in standard voting machines across the state that require paper ballot backups for every voter?
Yes, I think we need paper ballot backups as soon as possible. I know there was a piece of legislation that was in the House. I don't actually know whether it's on the governor's desk now or not, but that legislation said that they need to have paper ballot backups. Within the next few years, there was an amendment put in there to try to make that happen by 2024. That amendment failed, but the people of Indiana, when I talk to them, they want that paper ballot backup right away. They do not trust the elections. They do not believe that the national elections or the state elections are being monitored properly, and whether that's intentional or accidental. So I'm going to choose to believe it's accidental on the part of Indiana, but we know we had some federal issues. So yes, I support paper ballot backup as soon as possible.
Thank you. All right, Matt, what is your view about investing in standard voting machines across the state that require paper ballot backups for every voter?
Yeah, and I know a little more about this than maybe some of them, because as county commissioners, we were asked to fund some of this in the most recent years. Secretary of State Connie Lawson, prior to Secretary Sullivan, invested, I think, $12 million, and I think Boone County and Hendricks County both use microvote in what's called the VVPAT, which is a paper backup system, and I believe that Secretary Sullivan was working on it this session as well to get some more money in that. 100% support paper backup.
All right. Ken?
Well, sorry to
What
be
is your
original
view about investing in standard voting machines across the state that require paper ballot backups?
I kind of hard to be original after hearing all that, but no, absolutely. I think, and Doug pointed it out, a triple backup is sort of the standard thing of having multiple backups. The other thing I would point out also is, it wasn't part of the question, but it's tangentially involved, is voter ID. I find it interesting, I think there's a law that may just, I think it just got passed by the legislature and is on the governor's desk on requiring either your driver's license number or your last four of your social security number to get an absentee ballot. What I find interesting is some folks, friends, liberal friends, point them out, that think it's absolutely necessary. You have to, they want vaccine cards and everything else, but they just see nothing wrong with just showing up to vote. I find that unconscionable, quite frankly.
All right. Well, I said in the beginning we don't want to have any applause. That was for each individual answer. But if you'd like to applaud now for your candidates in District 25. Ken Abernathy, Douglas Rapp, Becky Cash, and Matt Whetstone. Thank you so much. All right, the next group of candidates is going to be those who are running for District 41. Now, District 41, before redistricting, it started west of Lebanon and went out toward Crawfordsville. Well, now it goes a lot farther to the north, taking in part of Lafayette. It's about the same size as it was before, but covers a different area. And the candidates are Richard Bagsby, Mark Genda, and Shane Weist. So if you would like to come up. We'll begin discussing issues in District 41.
Hello.
And we're going to begin by giving you a 1-minute opening statement. And as you know, I'm pretty strict on the clock here. So the first one up is going to be Mark Genda. Mark?
I'll introduce myself. My name is Mark Genda. I've been very transparent about this. I'm a born and raised hot dog that has had some issues while I've been here in Lebanon, but here's the thing. I didn't play basketball, so that seems to let everybody off the hook with me. Running for this office because I've been in funeral service for 38 years. I've owned my own business for 30. I've been serving people for 38 years, and I've been listening. And that's what I want to carry with the District 41 down to the House. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen. And I'm going to carry your voice to the District of 41. And that's my pledge to you. Thank you.
All right, the next candidate is Richard Bagsby. 1 minute, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Bagsby. I am running for state representative for District 41. I'm a first-time runner. I'm not a politician. The party did not ask me to run. I am doing this for my wife, my children. We have 8 children, 2 grandchildren, and 2 on the way. We had to pull our kids out of school due to the mandates because we did not agree that the state of Indiana had our best interest when it came to our children. I believe that as parents, we have the ultimate right to decide how our children are treated. And as my wife was frustrated and my children was frustrated, she asked me, why don't you do something about it? And that is why I'm running. Thank you.
All right, next we have Shane Weist. Opening statement, 1 minute, please.
My name is Shane Weist. I'm from Tippecanoe County. I'm a graduate of Purdue University with a political science and history degree. I was a golf professional for about 15 years, and now I'm a sales manager for a home building company in Tippecanoe County. I have a lot of past experience in nonprofit work. I've served on about 20 boards and committees locally within our community. I was president of a township board for about 5 years. 2014, I was blessed to be the 2014 Indiana Township Board Member of the Year due to my work in preserving a historic cemetery. I believe my past experience in managing businesses, nonprofit work, and townships gives me a neat perspective from multiple angles for this seat. I'm pro-life, pro-gun, pro-liberty, and I look forward to representing you and the other communities within district. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to get into the questions now. Mark, you're going to get the first question if you want to step up to the podium. And that question is priorities. So expand upon what you believe are the most compelling issues that the legislature faces. You have 1 minute to do it.
As I look at the District of 41, it's an interesting district. It has a lot of different vibes to it. For instance, up in Clinton County, I've been talking with a lot of the ag people up there, and they are very concerned about urban sprawl in some of their areas and their right to farm bill. They want to make sure that that stays protected. Then I come down here to the county of Boone County, and I see what's going on here with your infrastructure and what's going on with all your industry buildup. You've got a whole different gambit going on down here. Your local government is got to be on top, and they are on top of what's going on down here more so than what the state needs to dictate. As I go over into Tippecanoe County, I find that there's a strong mix over there of the agriculture and the urban sprawl that's going on. And I think those two things, as they start to mix, they need to be learning to live together. And I think those are the things that we at the state need to be aware of, keeping the local government local, letting them run their areas that they know best and they've been elected to do.
That's 1 minute. Thank you very much. All right, Richard, question is, expand upon what you believe are the most compelling issues the legislature faces.
I do have a few, thank you. As a father of 8, my priority, number 1, is protecting the unborn. There was 5,600 aborted babies in Indianapolis alone in the year 2020. I'm a minister at my church, and that is definitely near and dear to my heart. Also, keeping social initiatives out of our schools, such as critical race theory, social equity learning, and also the 1619 Project. Our history should be our history, and it should be left alone. No one should have the power to try to change that and confuse our children. And also prioritizing small business by supporting legislation that lowers taxes for our mom and pop stores, and also lowering or outright eliminating property tax and income tax for our seniors and our military vets. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Shane, 1 minute on the question. Expand upon what you believe are the most compelling issues the legislature faces.
Some of the important issues to me within our state right now, one of those is infrastructure, roads and bridge projects, making sure we're staying up on our roads so that we look compelling to businesses that are looking to come into the state of Indiana. Broadband, which was mentioned in the last questions, very important topic. As Mark mentioned, we have three very different types of communities that we're representing with Tippecanoe County, Clinton County, and Boone County. Tippecanoe County, we actually just got a grant. By 2024, we will have broadband to every part of Tippecanoe County. So I think it's important to look at our other counties within the district and find ways to do that. career opportunities and trade programs in our school, making sure we're giving students other options other than the college career path if they want to look at a different opportunity. I think we need to expand those as we have a lot of issues right now in manufacturing, home building, and other areas where we need more employees. And also workforce housing, making sure that we're looking at.
I'm sorry, Shane, that's 1 minute. Richard, you're up next for the first question, or the next question. You get to be the first one to answer, and that question has to do with abortion. If elected, and if Roe versus Wade were to be overturned such that the limitations on abortions would then revert to existing state law, what, if any, adjustment to state law would you seek?
Can you say the last part again?
If Roe versus Wade was overturned
Okay.
and returned to the states, what adjustment would you support to state law on abortion?
As this red state is the Hoosier land, part of the Bible Beltway. In Indiana, I believe that we should support, and I would support, the ending of abortion. That's all I have. Thank you.
Shane? Same question. If Roe versus Wade was overturned and such that the limitations on abortions would then go to state law and state control, what, if any, adjustment to state law would you seek?
I am also a 100% pro-life candidate. If that was to happen here soon, looks like it's possible. I would hope we'd have a special session of the General Assembly to get back together to look at this and put something into place right away, because I believe life begins at conception, and we 100% must take care of this topic. So thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Life
elected, and if Roe, you want me to repeat the question, or
Please,
just
yes.
want to go for it? If Roe versus Wade to be overturned and the limitations on abortion would again revert to existing state law, what, if any, adjustment to state law would you seek?
Life begins at conception. I'm absolutely 100% pro-life. Now, I'm going to take this one step further. So when you hear me say pro-life, let me hear you say this is something now that starts to land towards funeral service. All lives, all souls are God's presented souls. So when I say this, I'm going to dovetail into something else here. I do not support any type of assisted suicides either. I'm going to take it all the way to there, because that is also a soul. So if I'm going to be protective of all souls that are given to us by God, then I'm going to carry that over and say it's a complete yes.
All right, thank you. Shane, you want to step up there? You get the next question first. And this has to do with education. As we all know, some parents have been at odds with local school boards over issues like critical race theory, alternative views on American history, and types of sex education. And they don't believe the state legislature addressed these issues adequately in the last session. What would you suggest the state legislature do on these issues?
I'm definitely 100% against CRT. I believe our history is our history. I have a history degree, and I believe we need to teach what actually occurred. I think that's very important for the next generation to know what's happened so we can learn from that history and not repeat that history. I also believe teachers need to be protected. I think we need to make sure we don't overreach into our classrooms. It's a very difficult job. I had a mother that was a teacher for 35 years. I watched her come home every night, every weekend, put her heart and soul into that job. So I think it's definitely a slippery slope and something that needs to be looked at closely. But I definitely think we need to keep CRT out of our schools. Thank you.
All right, Mark? I'll repeat the question. Parents are at odds with local school boards over issues like the so-called critical race theory, alternative views on American history, and types of sex education. They don't believe the state legislature has addressed these issues adequately. How would you suggest the legislature move forward on these issues?
Sure. I'll go back to my 2 terms on the school board. There has always been concerns about how to educate children. So I liked what Don Leahy said, an old-time representative. I liked his common sense theory. He said this. He said, back in my old days on the school board, at the beginning of the year, we got the teachers together with the parents and the administration and the school board, and we set and selected the curriculum for the year. That's just common sense. That's what I would support.
All right. Next question, Mark. You're first up on the next question. That would be, Richard, I'm sorry. Please, go ahead. Let me ask the question again.
Always getting forgotten about.
Some parents are at odds with local school boards over issues like critical race theory, alternative views on American history, and types of sex education. They don't believe the state legislature has done enough on these issues. How would you suggest the legislature act on them moving forward?
I would suggest that the state legislator get them a book like this. It says, the Indiana Constitution. I keep this with me. And I won't read much of anything in it. I just want to read this part. We should establish justice, public order maintained, and liberty perpetuated. It's just that simple. The only bridge, there's a lot of people that say that bridges need to be gapped, or the gap should be bridged, but they're trying to bridge the gap between right and wrong and bills that are just simply wrong. And so as far as CRT, SEL, pornography in the schools, HB 1134 was gutted, but I guarantee you there were no parents that supported it to be gutted. And so as a legislator, if I was elected, God willing, I would say no to CRT, SEL, 1619, or any other social initiative program that would cause my little son, my boy, to be confused about his gender. Let's go back to the basics, and let's do the right thing.
That's 1 minute. Thank you. All right, let's go to Mark now with the next question. We're back on track, I hope. And that question has to do with marijuana. What is your position on the legalization of recreational marijuana in Indiana? And if you think it should be legal, under what kind of limitations?
No, we should not legalize marijuana. There is the discussion about using marijuana as a prescription drug, and I would be open to listening and hearing about that. But as far as legalizing marijuana, that is not what District 41 would have me do.
All right. Richard? What is your position on the legalization of recreational marijuana in Indiana? And if you think it should be legal, under what kind of limitations?
Once again, I'm a right and wrong type of candidate. I'm a freedom candidate. I fight for the liberties of each and every constituent in our district. I have been out knocking doors. I have been talking to voters, Republican voters, and I don't think that that's what they would want me to do. I have 8 children. I don't want them to be influenced by recreational marijuana. I don't want our unemployment rate to be influenced by medical or recreational marijuana. If we had a discussion about medical marijuana, I would be privy to listen. But as far as legalizing recreational marijuana, I can't see that as even a priority in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Shane. What is your position on the legalization of recreational marijuana in Indiana, and if you think it should be legal, under what limitations?
I am 100% against legalizing marijuana as well for recreational use. I do know a family that uses it for medical purposes where it's prescribed safely. And as Mark mentioned, I definitely am always open to looking at that option for somebody that can help with a medical condition, but I would definitely not legalize it for recreational use. Even though I am a freedom and liberty candidate, I don't think that that's a road with it we want to travel. Thank you.
All right. Richard, you're going to go first on this next question. And that has to do with citizens' rights. What is your view about how Governor Holcomb maintained emergency orders without legislative action?
I believe it was unconstitutional. Once again, this right here. If we get back to vetting these bills based on 3 key principles, do they align with the Indiana and U.S. Constitution? Are they an infringement on individual rights and liberties? And are they a burden on the taxpayers? I believe our decision-making, when it comes down to deciding whether they are lawful or wholesome for the constituents, will not be confusing. I believe our General Assembly was The power of our General Assembly was usurped by the executive branch, and I believe he was wrong. And I also believe that there are others who supported it in our legislative branch, and I believe that they did not fulfill their oath to the Constitution.
All right, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
a minute. Shane, I'll repeat the question. What is your view about Governor Holcomb's maintenance of emergency orders without legislative action?
I definitely did not agree with him as well. I felt like it was an overreach. The COVID shutdowns were a great impact on our communities, on our small businesses, on our kids, everybody getting out of the element of what the norm was. We saw a lot of closures of some of our small businesses. We saw a lot of kids struggling by not having a socialization of school, trying to e-learn. So I definitely think that it should have been a legislative act, not a government act. So thank you.
All right.
We in funeral service didn't shut down. So I had the busiest year I ever had in 2020. I think it's really easy to coach from the cheap seats. I think the decisions were made that I now look back and say they were wrong. He should have called the legislature back together. I believe that when he was sitting in that chair, he did the best he could with the information that he had. He should have gotten them back together, and it should have been a decision made by the group. But what I'm telling you is, he did what he could do at the time. We had never had a pandemic before. I worked through it. I do not agree that what he did was correct, but during the time he did it, I believe why would he do it? He didn't have a reason to gain anything.
Okay, that's 1 minute. Thank you. Shane, you get the next question first, and that has to do with gun rights. What is your position on constitutional carry, the right to carry firearms, including handguns, without a special permit in Indiana?
I am 100% for constitutional carry. In the states, there's 21 states that it currently occurs. States that have passed this law have seen little or no effect from it. Maine, I know, passed it in 2015, and Maine is considered the safest state in America by data. So I'm 100% fan of constitutional carry, and I was glad to see it pass our state house. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, what is your position on the constitutional carry, the right to carry firearms, including handguns, without a special permit in Indiana?
I believe we should have the right to carry handguns without a permit. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, not only for protection of myself and family, but also the fact that I'm a sportsman. And so my Second Amendment rights go past just the protection. It's also what I have enjoyment in doing.
All right. Richard, what is your position on constitutional carry, the right to carry firearms, including handguns, without a special permit in Indiana?
Right here. It's just that simple. The Indiana Constitution. I do not have to ask my neighbor. I do not have to ask the state. It's provided right here. The Second Amendment is not for hunting. It is about protecting myself and my family. Indiana's Constitution, Article 1, Section 34, provides all the ammo I need. I build ARs as a hobby. My wife, we have handguns. We teach our kids about handguns. I built maybe I shouldn't say that. You know what, I will. I built my 6 up to 13-year-old ARs as well. They know how to use them. We teach them gun safety. I think just to pivot a little bit off of that, not only do I believe in the constitutional carry, but I believe that we should ban red flag laws and gun-free zones as well. So
that's 1 minute. Thank you. All right. Mark. Keeping it real now, in this district, if you were to win the nomination, you'd have a pretty good chance of winning the election and being part of a supermajority in the legislature. How would you work with the minority party, and how necessary is it to work with the minority party?
I admire the representative, Shane, who's the representative? Sheila Clinker. I respect her because I see Sheila out representing the people that she was elected by. So would I have a conversation with her? Absolutely. Because she's out representing the people that she was elected by. Are her and I going to agree? Probably not. But I'm not going to not listen to her. Absolutely, we should. I believe this. I believe that there is a silent majority that believes that we should be listening to one another and not just screaming at each other. And if it takes me being in there to be that person, then I would be honored to be that. If you're saying, no, Mark, we don't want you to reach across the aisle, you're the district. You're telling me what to do. I work for you. And that's what I would do.
All right. That was 1 minute exactly. Very nice. Richard. Question is, if you were to win the election and be part of a supermajority, how would you approach the minority party and how would you work with the minority party?
So like I said before, as a legislator, the question is not whether you are a nice person or a kind person or everyone loves you, everyone likes you. Are you doing the right thing by the 65,000 people who elected you? These are the decisions that we have to make. This is the perspective that we have to look at. Would I work with the minority party on issues? Of course. But we are a supermajority. So I think we need to be working with some of our other progressive members of the Republican Party as well so that we can look more like Florida instead of Michigan. Thank you.
All right. Shane, same question. If you were to win an election and be part of a supermajority, how would you work with the minority party in the legislature?
I think it's definitely always important to have open viewpoints, to always have open ears, just like with my constituents, it would be just important with my colleagues. I would definitely always keep an open ear, but I would always stick to my values, specifically my Christian values and the values of the voters in my district. So yeah, I would not be having screaming matches. I would definitely be having conversations, but I would definitely stick to the values that I think that are important to my voters and the constituents that I represent. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a nice round of applause for the District 41 candidates? Mark Genda, Richard Bagsby, and Shane Weist. All right, we're actually ahead of schedule here. How great is that? We're going to move on now. The next candidates on the stage are going to be Boone County Commissioner candidates. We have Tim Beyer and Tom Santelli. And the first thing we're going to do is have a 1-minute opening statement, and we'll start with Tom.
I don't think I've ever done anything in 1 minute, so this is a challenge. So we live in extraordinary times, and we live in an extraordinary community. My name's Tom Santelli. I am running for re-election as your Boone County Commissioner. We bring unparalleled leadership in Indiana. We are ranked #1 in governing throughout the United States. In Boone County, we are #2 in low taxes. Out of the other 92 counties, we are the second lowest in taxes. We are #2 in growth. We've got so many things going on with us. We bring remarkable leadership in public safety. I'm involved in mental health within our justice system, and we're recognized as one of the best places to live with great schools. We have a gold standard in health treatment in our justice system. And even better news, we are poised and positioned for advancements in so many areas.
All right, thank you, Tom. That's 1 minute.
Thanks.
All right, Tim Beyer, 1 minute for an opening statement, please.
Hello, my name's Tim Beyer, and I'm running for Boone County Commissioner, District 1. I've lived with my family in Boone County, just outside Zionsville, since 1998. I'm a civil engineer and land surveyor. Over the course of my career, besides civil engineering and land surveying, I have worn a lot of shoes and worked for a nationwide real estate developer, contractors performing pipe, dirt, and paving work, and a sewer utility. I would take the same approach in my role as county commissioner, striving to wear many shoes, if only for a brief period of time, to gain an understanding of the various roles that the job entails. Now, I have 3 children in my family attending college and 2 different high schools. After school mask requirements were seemingly blindly reinstated nearly everywhere in schools only in summer of 2021, I started studying the states and federal constitutions, and I would like to share with you some of what I have learned, as it is pivotal in my decision to run for office.
All right, that's 1 minute. We'll share it as we go through the questions, and we'll start with Tom. And the first question, if you want to step up to the microphone, has to do with transparency. A lot of people cannot attend the meetings in person, but they have a desire to know what's happening at those meetings by watching live or recorded. So how do you think the Office of County Commissioner can be more transparent and accountable to the citizens of Boone County?
Sure, you bet. Well, our meetings are open. We have added the ability to listen and see them. Obviously, we have the news media there. That's probably one of my strongest pushes is for transparency at every level with regards to getting community input for our subject matter experts, and then delivering the best value. And I think one of the things I've worked in is with farm taxes, and working with Senator Brandt Hirschman, I was able to reduce taxes, and that was just through the transparency of the process and fair land values.
All right. Tim? Question is, many people cannot attend the meetings in person, but they do have a desire to know what's happening by watching the meetings live or recorded. How do you think the Office of County Commissioner can be more transparent and accountable to citizens of the county?
Well, for sure, I think the meetings should be broadcast live. I attended a lot of school board meetings in the past 6-8 months. And for example, Lebanon schools broadcast their school board meetings live, every meeting they have. Zionsville, for example, they don't broadcast it live. There's a recording available later. I suppose that's, at least somewhat transparent, but I would be in favor of broadcasting live meetings.
Okay. Why don't you just stay there? You get to go first on the next question, which has to do with fiscal responsibility. Now, Republicans have been historically proponents of small government and fiscal prudence, but we did have a 2017 increase in local income tax in Boone County. Would you support another income tax increase to fund major projects in the county?
Initially, probably not. I think that, obviously, people hire government to protect their individual rights, so there is a need for funding. However, I think government in general should err towards living within its means, just like everybody else does in the rest of society.
Okay, Tom? Question is, would you support another local income tax increase to fund major projects in the county, considering that there was a 2017 increase in local income tax in Boone County?
Sure. Well, the state's just reduced the state tax, and there certainly are some areas, we just increased Cume Bridge, and you have to look at the overall tax structure. That's a levy, and that means other levies go down and Cume Bridge goes up so we can support our infrastructure. And you have to deliver the best value for every dollar spent. We just voted for school increases, and I think that it's important that we deliver the services that we need to have and that the community wants to have. It's really your voice that makes a difference in terms of the services that are delivered. And again, I've worked in a number of areas where we've reduced taxes. So I think that if you look at what you need, if we're building roads and bridges, in my short tenure, we rebuilt 14 bridges at $25 million, but we are leveraging that with federal dollars, with state dollars, and we have to have local dollars to have that match.
Okay, that's 1 minute. Thank you. Why don't you stay there for the next question, which has to do with citizens' rights. As the executive arm of counties, commissioners across the country have used their authority citing emergency powers to define activities and businesses that could continue and at what level over the last few years. What do you consider to be appropriate guardrails on that power?
Well, we have 3 commissioners, and they have to reach a consensus. And during the pandemic, I was the first county under my presidency, to eliminate the executive order in Boone County. And we believe in education and communication and freedom of choice. And we have done that in a number of different areas, acting as your executive branch of government. And I think our performance speaks volumes to what we've done and how I've approached it within Boone County. And we've also made sure that the people that had opposing views could come in and make their presentations to the commissioners. So we didn't just always have one view, and we made sure that everybody had their voice.
Okay. Tim? Same question. As the executive arm of counties, commissioners across the country have used their authority citing emergency powers over the last few years to define activities and businesses that could continue. What do you consider to be appropriate guardrails on that power?
Well, I'm going to kind of continue on my introduction because it kind of, what I was saying in my introduction, because it plays right into this. Basically, what I've learned about studying the state and federal constitutions, the first thing you should know is that the only purpose of government is to protect your individual rights. Assuming it is still actually taught in schools, this is part of an 8th grade social studies curriculum, which part of that curriculum states the purpose of government is to protect individual rights and freedoms, and goes on to state that government is supposed to protect and not take away the rights and freedoms of individuals. Is that what our government did for the past 2 years? In other words, you're free to live your life as you see fit, and the government at all levels exists to protect your right to do so. In fact, we the people hire government to do this, and we have a contract with the government called the constitutions. I like that you use that, Richard. There's one for each of the 50 states and the federal government. Through the constitutions, we the people have delegated limited authority to government to do this for us.
Okay, that's 1 minute. Thank you. But stay there. I have another question for you. And this is a hot local issue here in Boone County. A lot of talk about wind and solar farms. What is your view on the development of such alternative energy and also appropriate land use?
Well, I like, by the way, I think it was Becky, that when you don't know something about a topic, I'm not going to make something up. I would certainly be willing to research it. My view of this evening is, by the way, I have an information flyer back by that stack of 5 boxes, by the way, in case I don't get through everything I've prepared here. You really should pick up a flyer so you can see why I've stacked 5 boxes back there. It's really important because it goes to what I feel is the most important characteristic that any government official should have. So go pick up a flyer.
All right. Tom?
Thanks, John.
The question is on wind and solar farms. What is your view on the development of this type of alternative energy and also appropriate land use in the county?
Well, I headed up the research and development and engineering of 5 different companies, built 5 different research centers, and I put in the first fully solar-powered high school in Reston, Virginia. I worked with I.M. Pei, the architect, in terms of solar installations on buildings. We are working on solar installations in the refrigerated warehouses so that they can power that. We are considering a 1 megawatt solar installation to power the jail. I think that there's really great ways to go after this. We've probably got 1,000 acres under roof, and we should be putting solar panels on our warehouses in other areas. I did not support putting in a 2,000-acre solar farm that was going to supply power to NIPSCO up north and affect Boone County. If we're putting in installations that are going to help our communities and deliver, that's a big deal.
Okay, that's also 1 minute. Thank you. Stay there for the next question, which is on a similar note. There is a development posed for the western horizon of Boone County. What do you think the role of the county commission should be when it comes to zoning land usage?
Sure. We are very much in support of home rule. We believe that our community, our voters, should have a voice in that in terms of what happens. We had that with the solar farm that was going to be installed up off of 100. I think that the community, and you've got great commissioners, you've got great government, they should be part of that decision-making process. These are big decisions, and absolutely, I think I have at least the understanding in that. I built a $1 billion paper mill, and I understand what the avenues of working with government are, but local support and how is that going to benefit our schools, our infrastructure, and all those things that go with it have a lot of cost, and I've already modeled some of that, and I understand the impact that it would have on Boone County, so I can communicate, here's what's happening, here's the cost, here's the impact, and here's the value, so that everybody gets a fair input into that process.
And that's 1 minute. Thank you. Tim, same question. There is a development proposed on the western horizon in Boone County. What do you think the role of the county commission should be when it comes to zoning land usage?
Well, it's my understanding that the commissioners ultimately have the final say on whether a piece of ground gets zoned. People have a right to develop their property. And I think the commissioners play a role in ensuring that the use fits with the surrounding land and that the development is done orderly and those types of things. So, yeah, I think it's a vital role that a commissioner plays.
Okay. Stay there for the next question. Tim, you're going to go first on the next question. That is to do with board
You
appointments.
need to bring somebody else up here.
What do you think is the proper way to determine appointees to the many boards that fall under the purview of the county commission?
The proper way, could you repeat that? The proper way to do what?
To determine appointees to the many boards that fall under the purview of the county commission.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
What do you think is the proper way to determine appointees to the many boards that fall under the purview of the county commission?
So as a person that would appoint department heads, the primary purpose, again, of government is to protect individual rights. For example, the health department this year seemed to, I would advocate for, let's use the health department as an example. I would advocate for appointing someone who would get out, transparent, beneficial information that's useful. For example, in the health department, we didn't have a lot of balanced information coming out of that department. It seemed to be,
Tim,
they were just repeating
that's
information
1
out of
minute.
the CDC.
Time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Tom, the next question has to do with citizens' rights.
Did I get to answer that? Do I answer it? Or we're switching questions now?
Okay, yes. What do you think is the proper way to determine appointees to the many boards that fall under the purview of the commission?
You bet. I serve on many boards within Boone County, the Family Recovery Court, JDAI, Community Corrections and Probation. I'm Vice President of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's really picking the best candidates for board appointments and those that are going to be involved. I call it bacon and eggs for breakfast. You know, the chicken's involved, the pig's committed. And you've got to have people that are going to work together, that are going to deliver the best value in the boards, and they serve a very important role. So we just appointed 2 different individuals to the library boards, and they are exceptionally talented people, and they bring exceptionally talented value to what we're serving, whether it's a planning board or a zoning board. And the interesting thing about the solar project was that they viewed that as a farm. So it wasn't rezoning, it was a farm. But fortunately, our Zionsville board was able to work through all the issues on that and make sure that it provided the best value for our community based on our community's input.
That's 1 minute. Thank you. All right, now we're going to switch questions with you, and that has to do with citizens' rights. Can you give an example of when you have stood up for the constitutional rights of citizens in Boone County?
Well, we have done that with regards to eliminating the mandates and other things. I mean, we were asked to have mandates, and we got, obviously, community input, mandates for masks, mandates for vaccines. We also made sure that every voice was heard in public meetings, and I also want to echo on that. We've developed a website, www.livinginboonecounty.com, and you go to that, and we've got questions that come from the community, and then we provide thoughtful answers either from boards or wherever they come from. So we are, I think, champions of limited government and individual rights, whether it's property rights for farmers or individual rights. We have been champions of that all through my tenure.
All right, thank you. Tim, can you give an example of when you have stood up for the constitutional rights of Boone County citizens?
Absolutely. I attended probably a dozen school board meetings standing up for my children's rights, not to have to wear a mask in school. Continuing on, since this plays right into it, government has no authority to act beyond the limits delegated in the constitutions. Think of it like a company. Each state is its own company, and the people are owners of these 50 companies. The states are the owners of the federal government. The people are superior to the states are superior to the federal government. When the federal government acts beyond its delegated authority, the states have the obligation to intervene. Similarly, when the federal government or state acts beyond its delegated authority, local government has the obligation to intervene. Are your government officials acting like they know this is the purpose of their job? Have they been fulfilling their obligation? These individual rights are called unalienable rights. That term, as defined in Black's Law Dictionary, is defined as incapable of being sold or transferred. To put it simply, nobody has the right to order anyone else to do as we command, not even a government official or a business owner.
All right, Tim, that's 1 minute. Thank you. Next question goes to you, Tim.
Oh. I thought I changed my name.
Recently, the men's recovery home was sold by its owners and demolished, and there is no replacement to date. If you believe that addressing drug and alcohol addiction is also addressing crime, homelessness, and the welfare of families, what would you do to address addiction and recovery in the county?
Again, something I don't know anything about that, so I'm not going to try and attempt to answer it. However, I will continue on with the previous question. It is government's job to protect us from anyone who attempts to do as we command. Did your government do this for you over the past 2 years? As part of their work in protecting everyone's individual rights, governments writes codes. In Indiana, at the state level, these are called the Indiana Code and the Indiana Administrative Code. As long as these codes are written within the limits of the delegated authority in the constitutions, they carry the same weight. However, if they are written beyond the authority delegated in the constitutions, then they carry no weight and are null and void. How many pages do you think are in the Indiana Code? How many pages do you think are in the Indiana Administrative Code? Well, there are over 22,000 pages in the Indiana Code, hence the 5 boxes back there.
All right, Tim, that's 1 minute. Thank you. Tom, the question is, the men's recovery home was sold by its owners and demolished recently, and there is no replacement to date. If you believe that addressing drug and alcohol addiction is also addressing crime, homelessness, and the welfare of families, what would you do to address addiction and recovery in Boone County?
You bet, John. Thank you. I'm a board member of Sylvia's Child Advocacy Center in the past. I served on the Boone County Drug Task Force, a board member on probation and community corrections, and we have funded, again, Aspire and Inwell, doing in the jail treatments, but then also serving as a bridge out into the community. I'm a board member of the JDAI, Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, a board member in the Family Recovery Court. And there's just some emotional things that go in with that when you're dealing with parents and kids. I also have served on the serving on the Lieutenant Governor's Commission on Mental Health and Addiction, and I've got skin in the game because we adopted 2 children that their parents were on drugs. They were dropping out of high school, so we committed full on with that. We got them tutors, we got them attorneys, we got them through school. And I think that one of the other big things that we've done is that when I worked in Georgia as Director of Research of Georgia Pacific, we worked with Governor Zell Miller, which was a Democrat, and we developed the Hope Scholarship.
Okay, that's 1 minute.
Yeah,
That's 1
funded
minute.
by the lottery to give every kid a college education.
Stay there for the next question. You get the first shot at it, and it is similar. What would you do to address the serious opioid issue facing Boone County?
Again, I serve on a lot of the different boards that address this, from the Family Recovery Court, Probation and Community Corrections. It impacts everything that we've got going on. It's not only the opioids, but it's meth. Right now, we have more juveniles with violent sex offenses than we have adults in Boone County. So these are things that really are hitting home. So we're working with Aspire, we're working with Inwell, we're working with the Sheriff's Department, we're working with the judges, we're working with community corrections and probation. If we get the kids in high school, we have less than a 25% recidivism rate. And I want to give a shout out to Sheriff Nielsen with the mental health programs and drug treatment programs we've got in the jail. We've reduced recidivism from about 85% in those people participating in these programs to 25%. It's absolutely huge.
That's 1 minute, too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Tim, question to you is, what would you do to address the serious opioid issue facing Boone County?
Well, on a number of these questions that you've asked, I would reach out to people that are knowledgeable in the field, because I'm not. I think it's important to recognize that just as you would hire somebody for a company, when you're evaluating somebody in an interview, they're not necessarily going to have all the experience that you need coming into the job, but are they willing to learn? I am certainly willing to learn, as I think I've demonstrated with what I've been willing to learn on my own time concerning the states and federal constitutions.
Okay. Why don't you stay there? The next question you get the first shot at, and that has to do with fiscal responsibility. What do you consider in the current county budget that is an area where we are spending too much, and in what areas do you think we should spend more?
Well, I think I do not know the specifics about the county budget. However, I think it would make sense to spend or pay more attention to roads, something that I'm very familiar with. And I think we should do it in an efficient and proper manner. For example, recently paved county roads in the past few years, particularly in the growing area around Zionsville, have been failing. These projects are often funded in part through state matching grants, and the same scope of work typically has been applied to all roads countywide. I would advocate for bidding the projects with more options when possible to account for differing needs depending on the location within the county. And I would also like to explore the possibility of preparing bidding documents with in-house personnel when possible.
Great, thank you. Tom, when you consider the current county budget, in which areas are we spending too much? And in which areas do you think we should spend more?
Thank you very much, John. I served on the county council before I became a commissioner. We have 65 different business units that we budget for at the county level. And what I've tried to do is leverage grants and funding from the state and federal level, which we've done a great job at. At our recent meeting, NDOT presented to us, of the 92 counties, they had $29 million that was not applied for projects that could have been applied for projects. So I think with the CARES funding, the ARPA funding, and the other things, by the state's constitution, we have to balance the budget. And I cannot honestly tell you that we're overspending in any areas, whether it's the clerks, the court, the public safety. We have lots of opportunities to value add each dollar. In other words, are we applying it to the best projects? And if we had more money, I can apply those to drug treatment and a lot of other programs. But
that's 1 minute, thank you.
We have to operate within the budget.
And while you're there, let me ask you this question. We're going to bring back the rural broadband question because a lack of reliable, cost-efficient internet in rural areas is a problem. What would you do, or what do you think we should be doing to address that issue?
Oh my God, I'm so glad I got that question. So I am working with Charter Communications, and I'm working with the Lieutenant Governor on the OKRA funding and the RDOF funding at the federal level. We just applied for a grant, and we have 11 service providers that provide to Boone County. So we are working on 406 passings right now north of Whitestown, over into Lebanon, into other areas of the county. We're going to be working on another 875 passing. And each passing, if it goes to a business, that's a single passing. If it goes to an apartment complex, that's a single passing. So we are working with Charter, we're working with Comcast, we are working with AT&T and all the other providers in terms of, and we just sent out a survey that's asking all residents of Boone County to test their broadband, send their data in, and then we're using that at the state level then to see where we go to next.
That's 1 minute. Thank you very much. Tim, same question. The lack of reliable, cost-effective internet is a problem in the rural areas. What do you think we should be doing to address that issue?
Much like Tom said, work with the state, find the funds to do it. I know people that live in the rural area of the county, and it is a problem. It needs addressed.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We sure do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for Boone County Commissioner, Tim Beyer and Tom Santelli. All right, the next candidates to come to the stage are going to be the candidates for Boone County Sheriff, Tony Harris and Scott Pell.
John, good to see you.
All right, we're going to start with 1 minute opening statements, and we're going to begin with Tony Harris.
Good evening. I'm Tony Harris. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 27 years. During those 27 years, I've been promoted to Sergeant, Captain, and now Chief Deputy. I also spent 19 years on the Boone County Special Response Team as an operator, an inter-team leader, an assistant team commander, and team commander. I live on a small farm, about 50 acres, with my wife Chastity, my son Cale, my daughter Lily, my daughter Abby, and my son Grady. I look forward to being here and answering the questions tonight and stating our case here to be the next sheriff of Boone County. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And also Scott Pell, 1 minute opening statement, please.
Hi, I'm Scott Pell, running for Boone County Sheriff. I don't have a real strong voice, but I'm up here tonight because of you, not because of me, trust me. But I'm running for the deputies of the county, and I want to make changes. I think we need changes. I want to start working a lot more drug cases and doing a lot more proactive things that I can't get into a 1 minute or less introduction, but I look forward to talking to everybody and getting more information out on this as we go along through the night. Thank you.
All right, Scott, we're going to give you the first question if you want to stay there at the podium. And I guess this is one you knew that was probably coming. Everybody knew this was coming. Do you support the creation of the Justice Center? Why or why not? 1 minute, please.
That's a good one.
It's to the point.
I am for parts of the Justice Center. We do not need, in my opinion, a $60 or $58 million Justice Center at this point in history or time. Boone County is thriving, but a lot of places aren't. And with $4.50 gas and $5 diesel, and we don't need a tax hike right now, in my opinion. In 2017, we had a tax hike for the PSLIT, and we can do everything we need to do without a $60 million jail. And I know that we can break this up and get this done for much less. And that's what we need to do for everybody sitting in this audience and that lives in Boone County.
All right, thank you. All right, Tony Harris, same question. Do you support the creation of the Justice Center? Why or why not?
When our current jail was built, it was in 1992. The population of Boone County was a little bit over 30,000. Now we're looking at over 70,000 in Boone County. We've got to continue to be proactive in this county and fight for it and do the right things. And that jail is, we've been as high as 246 inmates inside a jail that holds 184. At some point, we're going to have to do something. What that looks like, I'm not sure, but we are going to have to be proactive, not reactive. Thank you.
All right, Tony, why don't you stay there? We'll give you this question. You're the first one to answer this question. That has to do with the crime wave that we've seen in Indianapolis over the years. Murders have been increasing exponentially, and an increasing number of them are going unsolved. What would you do to prevent that problem from migrating from Marion County to Boone County?
Again, we've got to continue to be proactive, and our deputies, along with Zionsville Police Department, Lebanon Police Department, Whitestown Police Department, and those border counties down there, border cities that are bordering Marion County, and seeing those 6 to 8 murders a night on the news every morning, that's headed towards us. And we have got to make sure that we continue to stay proactive and we chase that crime down. We also have LPRs, which are license plate readers, and I know that some people are probably against those. But if you watch the statistics of what's come through our county and what our deputies have stopped with LPRs, it's amazing. And it's not only your license plates getting read, it's my license plate or my wife's license plate or anybody in this room, a family or relative or anything like that. So we need to continue to be proactive and make sure that we're doing the right things in order to protect this county, and that's what I plan to do.
Okay. Scott, same question. Murders have been increasing in Indianapolis over the last few years, and an increasing number of them are going unsolved. What would you do to prevent that problem from migrating from Marion County into Boone County?
Well, that is true. The numbers are showing crime is coming north, there's no doubt. Pike Township seeing a lot more violent crime. I've been watching this as as the election goes on, I've kind of been interested in it. But first of all, we have to have our judges and our prosecutor keep people in jail. I don't think we should owe our people or let people out on a low bond. We do a good job at that now. I'm not saying that we don't. But I believe that we've got to stand strong in Boone County and keep criminals in jail and not let them out so they can repeat offend and repeat offend. When they start to do this, it just seems to get more violent each time they commit an offense.
I have another question for you, and that has to do with House Bill 1006, which took effect in 2015. It mandates that low-level felons serve their sentences in the counties in which they committed the crimes instead of being housed in state prisons. The Indiana FOP believes that policy leads to state facilities not being fully utilized and the perception of overcrowding in county jails, which then creates the perception of the need for more space. So first of all, do you think that's true? And secondly, how would you manage that issue here in Boone County?
Well, if we do the jail expansion like we're talking about, we'll have more room. But I think right now, we don't want to try to take that on. We want to send them to the DOC but I believe that it's good, but we should pass them off to the state.
Okay. Tony, we have the same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Sure.
House Bill 1006, which took effect in 2015, mandates that low-level felons serve their sentences in the counties where they committed their crimes rather than in state prisons. The Indiana FOP believes that policy leads to state facilities that are not being fully used and the perception of overcrowding in county jails, which then creates the perception of the need for more space. Do you think it's true, first of all, and secondly, how would you manage that issue?
I can't speak for other counties, but I can for Boone. We don't have that many Federal 6 inmates inside our facility at this point, right? Now, whether that changes down the road, I'm not sure, but at this point, we do not have that many Federal 6 inmates in our facility.
All right, the next question, why don't you go ahead and stay there? You get the first shot at this one, and this has to do with employee retention and morale. There have been recent stories of deputies that have left or have been terminated from the department. What would you do to retain and attract talented officers in the Boone County Sheriff's Department?
Let me just start with the corrections officers. Right now, we could be looking at 18 to 21-year-olds working inside our facility. Some of those young kids, when I was that age, I wanted to be a police officer, right? So if I'd had the opportunity to work inside that jail at 18 years old, it would have built it up to that point where I turned 21 and was able to go on the road, because you can't go on the road until you're 21 and carry a gun. Now, when I say that, we don't have it, nobody carries a gun in our jail. They have defensive tactics, they're taser trained, and we can do that same thing with these younger officers and COs, bringing them in and give them a chance before they go to some other job like SIA or CAT and already build their reputation there, and then we lose attraction from them.
Okay, Scott? Question is, there have been recent stories of deputies that have left or who were terminated from the department. What would you do to retain and attract talented officers for the Boone County Sheriff's Department?
I have a plan for that, and I call it the 3 R's. It's recruit, retain, and retire. What I'd like to do, we do a pretty good job on recruitment. We get people in, but when we get people in, we can't retain them. They want to go to Whitestown or some other department, and we have got to stop the losses of our deputies. A 1-year deputies, running on the numbers out of the 5-year strategic plan, I think is $100,000 or $120,000 for a first-year deputy to get him through the academy, to get him in a uniform, to get him in a car, all his gear, all his training. We need to get these folks and keep them, give them a career path, give them choices, and give them better training. And then at the end, I want to retire them. That's the 3rd R. But I want to make things where when I started, you didn't go anywhere. You weren't going to move up the ladder very fast because no one left until it was retirement time. And Now that's changed. We
That's
need to
1
get
minute.
back to that.
Thank you. The next question, which you get the first chance to answer here, has to do with drug cases. Overdoses are up across Boone County in the last few years. What preventative measures are we taking, and what more could be done?
Well, preventative measures under my plan would be to get it, to work on the drugs is like the first layer is I want to teach our deputies and get them back trained in recognizing drugs. We just don't do a lot of drug work. The traffic guys do a pretty good job if they find it on a traffic stop or what have you, but we need to do more investigations. And when we get that to where it needs to be, then I want to get back to where we work with other county agencies. It seems like there's just not a lot of continuity with working with other agencies right now, or nobody wants to work with us. And then the third thing, once we get those two things hashed out, I'd like to do a plan where we get a guy back in the drug task force and do more regional drug work.
Okay. Tony, the same question for you. Cases of drug overdoses are up in Boone County in the last few years. What preventative measures are we taking, and what more should we be doing?
This administration started a criminal interdiction unit about 5 years ago. And those are multi-deputies that go out on their off time that we pay overtime to just go out and fight drugs that come across into Boone County. We've done a fantastic job doing that. I believe we need to build upon it, though. I would agree with Scott. It's been a long time since we've had somebody with the drug task force, and I think it's time to try it again and see if that works. What my only concern would be is how much does Boone County get out of it, and how much time do they spend in Hamilton County? But that's easy to figure out once you become sheriff and you talk to these police chiefs and other sheriffs and see what actual benefit we're getting from that in our county.
Let me ask you a question about priorities. Obviously, the proposed Justice Center is probably the #1 issue, but beyond that, what do you consider to be the most important issues facing the person sworn in as sheriff in 2023?
I believe we need to start looking at the internet and crimes against children, which we already are. These social media forms are tearing families apart, and we need to be more involved in it, and we're already starting that inside the sheriff's office. Our kids are our most valuable asset. I got kids in school, and we need to make sure we're taking care of these children, and we need to make sure that we're watching what they're watching on the internet. And if something happens to them on the internet, and a crime happens to get them, a predator gets to them, then we need to make sure that we're bringing them to justice. And I think with this program, we can do that.
Okay. Scott, same question. Except for the proposed Justice Center, what do you consider to be the most important issues facing the person sworn in as sheriff in 2023?
Well, I'd go along with Tony on that. The crimes against children on the internet are huge, but we also have crimes against adults. And we need to try to do whatever we can to help the senior citizens that may be widows. I go out and take reports all the time on widow ladies or men, it doesn't matter, that have fallen victim to somebody in some other country, we'll just say, that has portrayed themselves as another lonely senior. And they want to come and see the person in Boone County, Indiana, but they only need enough money to get here, which is $5,000 to get past the government clearances or whatever. So our citizen who falls for this sends gift cards or whatever. There's 1,000 different ways to do it, PayPal, and they never see that money again, and there's nothing we can do. We need to train not only the children, but the seniors in don't fall for these things. So that's another big thing.
Okay, that's 1 minute, and I have one final question for you. You've been on the department for a long time. What has changed over that time, and what do you see as the next big issue that the Boone County Sheriff's Department is going to have to address?
I think just our urban sprawl, we're having such growth, it's just exploding. We're so fortunate, but we're so unfortunate. With everything good that comes up here that we need and want, the element of negativity comes with it that we have to deal with. And I think Boone County's biggest problems we're going to have in the near future is fighting back the crime that comes with more population.
Okay. Tony, same question for you. What has changed over your time in the department, and what do you see as the next big issue that the Sheriff's Department will have to address?
A lot has changed. When I started, there was 13 of us, and Scott knows that. I mean, there was probably 12 when he started, or maybe even less than that. But now we've got over 42 deputies on the department. That's counting our school resource officers, which I'm a firm believer in too. We need school resources in those schools to keep our children safe. It's just like an alarm on your house. I'm not going to hit your house if it's got an alarm on. I'm going to hit the other house, right? So we need to continue to think proactive and be proactive. And those are just some of the things that's going on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for Boone County Sheriff, Tony Harris and Scott Pell. Now, again, what's not on the agenda tonight is a number of other contested primary races this year. Now, we didn't have time to get everybody on the stage. However, candidates with smaller constituencies in Boone County and some who are running for state offices are represented at the tables along the outside of the room. We would encourage you to meet and greet them. And thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for taking part in this, for viewing it. I think that we can all agree that democracy always works better when more people get involved. So thank you very much. We sure do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Please enjoy. There's refreshments in the back, but I'd also, on behalf of the Boone County Women's Club, I would like to present John with a gift, and it's a beautiful handmade pen that one of our members made. Thank you. And please stick around and mingle with our candidates, and thank you for coming.